Hi everyone and welcome to another video. Last video was review of the year and kind of plans for next year. This video is best books of the year and we also have stats coming up, so it's really an exciting time to be alive. I would say these are highlights for me, okay? Thinking about books, planning books, reading books, being happy about books are the joys of my life, or some of the joys of my life, I should say. I have other joys as well. These are my best books. It's not a big pile, I would say. There's only 5 books, but these are all 5 books that have really hit the mark, that I have really loved, that have really joined my... Are all of them all-time new favorites? I think so. These are all books that I've really given 5 stars to. In previous years, there are definitely books that I have showcased that now would definitely not even have been named. I had a hard time figuring out, okay, am I just going to talk about these 5 and really give you the highlights, or am I also going to talk about others that I also really loved but were not as good as these? So what I'm going to do, I did not understand the concept of honorable mentions until 5 minutes ago, but I've decided I'm going to do honorable mentions. But we're going to start with the favorites and then I'll just show you the other ones and maybe describe them in a sentence or two. But we're gonna spend a little bit more time with these. I'm not going to be coherent because this is just love. And you should just pick these up. Now, I think most of them have been published either last year or the year before, or maybe the year before. Except for one. The oldest book is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. It was published. When was this published? 19 something. Let me check what the something would stand for. Alice Walker, 1983. So it's 5 times as old as the other ones put together, and it's great. It's great. I highly recommend it. It's a coming-of-age story of a young girl who initially is beaten around by her father, sexually abused as well. She loses her children. She loses her sister that she has a wonderful bond with, and she continues writing first to God and then to her sister about her life. She gets married off to a man that is not really great for her. She starts being very interested in this other woman who lives a flamboyant life and who starts to get her out of this rut. Now, just from the premise alone, that would not necessarily be a reason to pick it up, but the writing and the emotion in this book is great. The emotion, you feel for this girl, you feel for Celie, you feel for her sister as well. Has a very different path that is interesting, that you read about in the, I think, last part of the book. It's just great. So many feels. I would highly recommend. Yes, these are going to be very comprehensive reviews. Let me turn this around so that you can see the books appearing slowly. Now the next, ta-na-na-na, does this work? Is The Tomb of Sand by Geetanjali Shree, and this is translated by Daisy Rockwell. It won the International Booker this year, and rightly so, because it's great. This is a book that if I had read it 2 years ago, I would not have gotten along with at all, because I wouldn't have noticed how beautiful the writing is. There are so many sentences that are just anything worth doing transcends borders, because moments are creatures of habit in their own way. Whole passages, it was just wonderful. I have no idea what these stand for, but maybe these are beautiful paragraphs, chapters. I love this book so much. It is difficult to talk about in the sense that it doesn't have a lot of plot. It's mostly character based. There are 3 parts to the book that are quite distinctive. The first, we get to meet the characters and the mother, who is depressed and does not want to have to do anything with the world. She's just staring at a wall and that's it. The second part is about a mother-daughter relationship, as her daughter starts taking care of her and the roles are reversed. And this daughter is struggling with seeing her mother growing up, which was a lot of fun. And the last part is about partition, about where you're from, and about history and losing loved ones and your sense of self. But the writing was brought this one home for me. There were so many sentences that I think I was quoting the book half the time to my partner, who was not really interested, but I don't care about that. I can only imagine how the original Hindi is like, because a lot of the writing and lyricism has to do with the use of words, and words having multiple meanings, or words having similar sounds to them, and that is where the translator deserves all the praise she can get, because translating things that taking sound and rhythm into account and double meanings, that's just a whole new level of translating. So reading also about what that was like was very interesting. And I mean, if I wish I knew Hindi so I could read the original, that would be great. But maybe, oh, that's actually a good idea. Maybe I should get this one in French as well. So, because French and English are different, so maybe then I would have I could rediscover the book but differently. That would actually be a very good idea. That's how much I love this book. Would recommend. Let's put it on the pile. That's not going to work well if I put all the heavier books. Well, never mind. The next. Transcendent Kingdom by Gyasi. Again, one that I really liked for the writing. It's not as lyrical as Tomb of Sand. This one is about a daughter whose mother is not doing well. The daughter is a scientist, and her mother has never recuperated from her son dying, and the father also disappearing from their lives. This is a book that is also about characters, that is about feeling, that is about love, that is about working through trauma, working through the death of a loved one. Really like this one, very different from Gyasi's other book, Homegoing, and a whole different category. But if she's going to write different books that are so different every time, then I'm here for it, because this was marvelous, and I think a lot of her ideas are very interested. It's been a while since I've thought about this one. I just remember loving it and then thinking, I just don't want to think about it too much, but because maybe I'm going to discover something that I don't like if I overthink, and I don't want that to happen. I just want this to be a good memory that I don't really know what the memory is of, but just knowing that I loved it is really good enough. Again, one with a lot of beautiful sentences. Apparently I hadn't discovered sticky notes yet while I was reading this, because it's going to be hard to find my thing. Oh, here's a note. Yes, science. Okay, love this one. We'll have to reread it, which is going to be very, very sad. Now let's not do this one. Let's do the bottom one first, because that is the one non-fiction. Yes, it's going very well. This one has not been translated to English. It is Revolusi by David van Reyenbrouck. It's a brick that was so interesting. David van Reyenbrouck is a Belgian researcher, historian, and he wrote this book about Indonesia, about how what we now call Indonesia came to being, how the Netherlands colonized it, and why, about the period during the Second World War, about the fights for independence, and a little bit about what it is now. The reason this got 5 stars, the reason it stayed with me, is because of the way the research was done, because David van Reyenbrouck spent years talking to the people from Indonesia and reconstructing their stories and telling the story of the country, not only from a macro level of, well, this is what the politicians were doing, this is what was happening on a global scale, oh, by the way, the Japanese attacked, but also on the level of the people that were actually there, about this boy who was raised learning Dutch even though there were no Dutch people around, and then becoming friends with a Japanese soldier, and then that Japanese soldier becoming a kind of bully, and then this boy joining the resistance and everything like that. So the balance between those levels and the way it was super comprehensive but detailed at the same time was great. I read another non-fiction that I'm going to talk about that is also about history, which apparently is a theme that I love, but that didn't have this level of humanity that in this one was just tremendous. And I'm going to pick up this year, in 2003, David van Reyenbrouck's other book that is about Congo. Congo was colonized by Belgium decades ago, and I can only expect that to be wonderful as well, because the level of humanity again is just what I want from our historians, what I want from how we look at the world, is how I wish we would look at the colonial past and about how we think about countries that are developing a little bit more. So, great. Hope this one gets translated because more people need to read it. The last, certainly not the least. How am I going to do this? Yep. Welcome to my new filming nook, by the way. Is Bewilderment by Richard Powers. I think from these books, the first one that I read was The Color Purple, and a couple of weeks later I read Bewilderment, and this one just blew me away. Even though I love all of these, this one is the top. And I don't think these I could rearrange and give numbers to, and that might change over time. This one really reached a new Hall of Fame level. It is so touching. It's about a father who is a astrobiologist who looks at what they know from planets and then imagines what the life on those planets could be like. And he has a son who is neurodivergent, and both of them have lost their mother/partner in life, and they're still grieving her. And at the same time, they're trying to cope with the son being neurodivergent and coping with that, the father not wanting to pumping full with drugs, but just wants the kid to be, but at the same time wants him not to be so angry all the time. And the child is also very invested in the climate crisis situation and how we are hurting sentient beings. He just does not understand why we are not caring for the planet, why we're not caring for the trees, why we're not caring for all of the animals, and that just hurts him. And he follows the footsteps of his mother, who was also someone that stood up for that. And that is interwoven with this grief because they take part in an experiment where his neurodiversity is redirected using memories and feelings of his mother. So there's a lot of feeling in this book, a lot of interesting ideas again, and I can't remember much what the writing was like. I think it was very simple. It's not a book that I will remember for its writing. What I remember is the love between this father and this son, and the way that we see people that are neurodivergent. What I really liked is that there isn't a label put on the son. He's not X, Y, or Z. He's just Robin, and Robin is coping with this, and other people find that difficult and he finds this difficult, and the way that they cope with it is just going to nature, which is also something I resonated with. The cover, can we talk about the cover? It is gorgeous. The only thing is the ending. There wouldn't have been another ending possible, I think, but it just hurt my soul. It really, really hurt my soul if you read the overstory but you did not like it because it was too long or whatnot. Please give this one a go. It is different. If you love the overstory, you're gonna love this one as well. I think I don't think everyone will love this one, but everyone should love this one because it's beautiful. And why haven't I pushed it down more people's throat is what I'm now wondering. It's wonderful. I loved it, and I hope you read it as well. These are my 5 favorites. Now, like I said, I want to do some honorable mentions. But if you're interested in I would do one of these. All of these. Yes, the other ones as well. The other ones are also good. Now, let me grab them. The non-fiction that I talked about a second earlier that was also great, but not to the level of Revolusi, is Great Expectations by Geert, Grote Verwachtingen in Dutch, the original. This is about the history of Europe between 2000 and 2022, which to me was just fascinating because it explains so much of what is going on now, also with the war in Ukraine. It explains so many things that I was not aware of, how the euro came to being, a lot of stuff about the refugee crisis. It's a lot about these separate crises, but at the same time about showing how Europe as the whole tends to deal with these things and the fundamental problems that there are, still being very hopeful about Europe and still being very much seeing Europe as a way to unite countries, but yeah, there are still issues also to talk about. So this was very, very interesting. Am I gonna put it on the stack? That doesn't feel honorable, but does this work? No, because I have more books to add. Anyway, let's continue. We also have Defriche, Coupe, Brule by Claudia Hernandez. This is set in El Salvador. I was not going to talk long about these books. This one I just love the writing on. The characters melted together. The lives of these women in El Salvador wove together. Writing again, very floating. Long sentences. Kept losing track of characters, but in a way that was good, in a way that really showed that all of these lives have very different things going on, but overall they're the same issues that they have. So love this one. I'm really happy that I bought it. Then we have First Woman by Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi. This one is set in Uganda, and it is about different ways of being a woman in Uganda, with the main character being a girl who wants to find her mother, who's been brought up by her grandmother. See, this is where this is not working. How well. Stay there. Petit by Gael Faye. Very short book. Some parts were sweet, some parts were horrendous. The first half is about this young boy just growing up, being a boy, being a little devil, doing stupid boy things in the street with his friends, and then the Ugandan genocide starts going on. This is set in Burundi, but his mother is Rwandan. I said Ugandan a second ago. I meant Rwanda. It's about the differences, Hutsis, Tutsis, and what the genocide in Rwanda had for effect on Burundi, and this boy just finding his world turned upside down and being a boy with no issues one day, and then the next having to figure out, okay, am I going to kill a person or not? Loved the second half. Growing up, great book, coming of age, all the things. Now, before I go to the two that I have in my hand, one of the ones that I want to talk about is Babel by RF Kuang. Another one that had a big impact on me. It's not as good as these. I think for a lot of people it will be. It's a science fiction, fantasy, history thing about colonization and language and a sense of self. It's also dark academia, so there's a lot of things again that it brings together, and it's written very well, and it has very interesting ideas about the need for violence and again colonization, language. The premise of the book is that they live in a world where there is a magic. The magic can be used by people that understand two languages and that use differences in translation between two languages to then make stuff happen. So for example, I have no example right now, but some things get lost in translation. You will have in one language word A, and in word B it will be translated to, no, in one language word A, and in another language it will be translated to B, but B also means a little subtle other thing, and that thing is then going to be the magic. So the only people that can use the magic are people that understand more than one languages, and in this book the big bad guys, sort of, kind of, are England and Oxford, and a specific part of the Oxford University who are using languages, who are using people from other countries, other places that they've colonized to make sure that they are wealthy. I was not going to talk about these books a long time, but the premise is very interesting. The only reason I did not give it 5 stars is because it was a little bit too sleek. It didn't have the beautiful writing or the things that you like, really, I don't know. It didn't have the rough edges that some of these books had that made them even better. But I'm looking forward to buying it anyway. I still think it was a marvelous, marvelous books. Then, 2 little ones, 2 more essays that did blow me away. One is Eigen, Wezijn, Eerst by Roxanne van Iperen. That is about how in the Netherlands the society is becoming more and more right-winged, and that we're more and more focusing on our own well-being and not necessarily caring for the society as a whole. That was interesting. And then we have Hot Money, which is about the relationship kind of between how we organized the world, focusing more on trade and money, and that is at a detriment to the climate, and that if we organize our fight against the climate crisis in the same way that we organize world trade, then a lot of the problems would be out of the world. But us focusing on money and not on people and not on sentient beings, like Robin would say, is the basic of a lot of things that are going wrong in our world. I think these are all the books. Let me just check real quick, because there might be just one non-fiction book that I don't own. That is also one that I wanted to talk about. No, these are all. Overall, I would say I had a great reading year. These books are wonderful, and like I said in my general looking back, I enjoyed the reading itself and saw sentences, so that just elevated the whole. I think these books I would still have loved also in previous years, but some of these I would not have enjoyed as much, and it only makes me hopeful for the rest of the year. I'm really grateful for these. This is a good stack. This is a good stack. Now, I've already talked for too long. I wanted to be short and crispy about my favorites, and that has not worked. But, you know, exciting times. I'm gonna stop talking. What are your favorites? Just tell me two. I mean, I failed at just a little list, but please tell me two favorites. And also, which one of these are you most interested in? That I would also like to know. I'm gonna stop talking. See you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.